number of coupons for every 12-month period. Most US bonds are semi-annual. That means coupon frequency is 2. I'm going to designate coupon frequency with small case f. Rarely you see quarterly. It would be extremely rare to have monthly. Okay, so on and so forth. But every once in a while, there's also annual. That means F is 1. So every 12 months, starting from the issue date, company pays just 1 coupon. And coupon amounts can be calculated easily. It's face value times coupon rate divided by coupon frequency. So if I have a 5% coupon rate bond with $1,000 face value with semi-annual coupons, what's the value of each coupon? And face value, $1,000, 5% divided by 2. If you make the calculation, that's just 25 bucks. Okay. Next, we also have to specify maturity date. That's the date for the last coupon plus repayment of face value. And I'm going to put that in quotes. How much that repayment depends upon the bond type. Let's also say we also have coupon types. You can have fixed coupons, as in the example above. Every coupon is $25, and that is set at the time the bond is issued. It does not change. You can have floating rate coupons, where the coupon rate actually depends upon some sort of reference index. Example of floating rate coupons. No, prime rate -2 or 3. And let's say 2. Prime rates is defined typically as the interest rate banks offer to their best customers. And historically, that happens to be, at least recently, the last 30 years or so. Federal Reserve sets short-term interest rate window, right? After last week's move, right now it's 475 to 525, and or is it 450 to 5? 450 to 5, yeah. Actually, I don't have to guess. Even though this thing affects me, I have two home equity lines of credit. On one of them, I pay prime minus one, on the other, prime plus one. Yeah, 475, 500. Okay, currently. And prime is typically, there is no guarantee that that has to be the case. I should say approximately 3% plus upper end of Fed funds rate. So my prime plus one loan is going to be, prime is going to be 8%, okay? And prime plus one is going to be 9%. Similarly, on my other loan, I'm going to pay 8. If Fed decreases another percentage point by the end of the year, I'm going to pay another 1% less. Floating rate bonds are relatively rare in US. They're much more common in corporate issues in abroad. But you could have loans that are linked to prime rates like this. You can also have bonds that exist, bonds where the coupons and face value are indexed to inflation, technically CPI inflation. One example are the TIPS. TIPS is a abbreviation for Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. Your face value starts at $1,000. Every 6 months, it's updated with the inflation. And when the maturity date comes, you actually get inflation indexed face value. But if it's not indexed, if the face value is not indexed to anything, on the last day, the maturity date, you get the last coupon, whatever that may be, depending upon fixed or floating, plus the $1,000 face value. There may be other conditions in the bond, which we're going to talk more next week. For example, one of the conditions could be, are there any restrictions on the issuer? These are so-called covenants. Some covenants are negative covenants. For example, anything that says the issuer shall not do something, that's a negative covenant. For example, it's going to say the issuer shall not issue more bonds after this amount um, that are amount less than a certain amount, or the issuer shall not increase the debt equity ratio above a certain level. Um, Such covenants are typically there to protect the lenders. I mean, for example, I borrowed $1 billion from you, right? And if there are no conditions, I can go ahead and borrow $10 billion from somebody else and give that $10 billion priority in the case of bankruptcy. So basically, there is nothing I can do about that at that point, unless there are restrictions. And as you know, when companies declare bankruptcy, there is an order to who's going to get their money first. Okay, you can have loans or bonds that are backed by a certain asset. Example, a mortgage. Okay, if mortgage, that's loan or bond is specifically backed by a property. In the case of bankruptcy, first that property is sold, The mortgage holders are paid to the extent they could. Whatever they cannot collect, they go back to the end of line. Or you can have so-called senior bonds. These get priority above other bonds. There are junior bonds or subordinated bonds. They pretty much go to the end. Of course, they are still ahead of the so-called preferred stock, which is technically a loan, but for tax purposes, it's treated as equity. And the shareholders themselves go to the end. It's extremely rare that shareholders get anything in the case of bankruptcy, but every once in a while it happens. So let's talk about a simple bond. Let's talk about valuation of fixed rates, fixed face value bonds. Most treasury bonds and quite a large majority of at least American corporate bonds are of this variety. Okay, so we're going to specify a few things. Face value,